Hello and welcome back to TG13. I have Scooby here, my sidekick, waiting for him to start barking. Today we're going to talk about the way too early top 10 running backs. It's been something I've been thinking about a lot recently. I know we are pretty far away from the NFL season, but again, I love fantasy football and I think about it quite often. And I was at the beach the other day and I shared it on YouTube. I was sitting there and I started thinking about a couple of players and how things have changed for them this offseason, whether that bring in another running back or a quarterback, a rookie quarterback. Offensive line really help out that offensive line. Maybe the defense got better. And I was just sitting there and I'm like, man, there's one player that nobody's talking about, and a lot of people are ranking him outside of their top 10, and I actually have him ranked inside my top 3. Um, I'm expecting a lot out of this player, and it's kind of shocking. And I know there's going to be a lot of people that hate that um, that I put this player that high, but and I'll explain it when we get there, but I have a lot of faith. I had a lot of faith in him last year. So if you followed a little bit of me last year, you'll know who I'm talking about. So without further ado, let's get in. So again, way too early top 10 running backs. Yeah, let's go. If you haven't already, go ahead and like this video and subscribe. I do some Madden stuff on the side. It has its own playlist, just stuff I like to mess around with. And then again, we talk a lot of NFL and we talk a lot of fantasy football here. And the season's coming up. Start breaking down these teams, start breaking down these players, and the schedules. And so you can never sleep on fantasy football. It's a year-round job. It's something you think about all the time. If you're dedicated, if you want to win, if not, watch this, like it, subscribe it just for the fun of it. You get to hear my dog occasionally, and I will crack some jokes here and there. But this is the first video that I wanted to deep dive into because I am interested in this information. Number 10, Alvin Kamara. He played 13 games last year, and I'm not going to go through everything. It's all right there, and I'll leave it up there long enough for people to read, or you can pause it. Enjoying some Diet Coke. He played 13 games last year. He ran the ball about a little over 18 times a game. You're just scrolling through there. I was kind of surprised by his touchdowns. He had 4 rushing touchdowns, 5 receiving touchdowns. I know it's definitely different without Peyton there and Drew Brees, little bit different. The main thing with him is he did lose Armstead on that offensive line, and that really hurts. Sorry, that really hurts. They did bring in Chris Olave and Trevor Penning. I don't think Penning's going to be the savior there at left tackle, but Olave, that definitely helps open up some lanes because last year they didn't have Michael Thomas. They had Marquez Callaway. And that was really about it. That's about all they had. Dogs running around with his toy showing the cat. So yeah, I have him rated number 10. Averaged 3.7 yards per carry. He had 4 rushing touchdowns, like I had talked about. He had 1,300 yards total. That's about 100 yards per game. So that is good on that offense. Again, they didn't have much last year, but with a healthy Jameis, they do have some weapons now, and I'm intrigued to see what they can do with Alvin. They do have Olave, they do have Michael Thomas, and they have Jameis Winston back. So this team could be fun to watch. We'll see with that offensive line. Last year they were ranked 18th. It's just getting worse with the loss of Armstead. So I almost didn't put him in my top 10, but you can't keep Alvin out of the top 10. You just can't do it. Number 9, Aaron Jones. In this one, I mean, if you go all the way to the bottom, they lose Devontae Adams. That's a lot. They lose MVS. Not that he did a lot, but still, you lost 2 wide receivers. You brought in Sammy Watkins and Christian Watkins. They're not Devontae Adams. And I know that A.J. Dillon's in the backfield right behind him. But Aaron Jones is going to get those receptions. You see there, he had 64 targets last year. That's only going to go up. He ran the ball about 11 times a game, 799 rushing yards, 4.7 yards per carry. That's really good. Not a lot of rushing touchdowns. Receiving touchdowns was 6, but I see Aaron Rodgers throwing more to Aaron Jones, and I wonder if they'll try to line him up in the slot a little bit. I didn't really break that down. That's something I'll do later in the season when it's July or early August and we're bored. I'll do a deep dive into a couple players and just see like where do these guys line up at and where could they line up at. But Aaron Jones, I like him at number 10. I know a guy in my league is really trying to trade him. Wants to get rid of him. My cat found a toy, I guess. I don't know what he's doing. But I would be intrigued to get him. I know he just signed that contract with Green Bay. They do have a good offensive line. You see there, they're 14th rated last year, and then losing Devontae. He averaged 79 yards per game. Again, I see that going up. He had a down year last year. I know that. You know that. I expect that to get better this year. Number 8, Leonard Fournette. 14 games last year. The big thing with Leonard Fournette is you never knew with Arians what was going to happen between him and Ronald Jones. And that was why I think a lot of people shy away from picking him up. But now that Ronald Jones is gone and they lost Antonio Brown, I know that happened earlier in the season, but they also lost Alex Cappa. They brought in Russell Gage, not that big of a thing. So I see Leonard Fournette's carries, receptions, touchdowns. I see all that going up. We'll see with Chris Godwin, see if he can come back healthy in the first couple weeks. I do think Gronk will be back. I don't think he's retired. He's probably got 1 year left. So that'll be something to add on there. And then you get Tom Brady back. And Tom Brady's 44 years old. Can't throw it as far as he used to. I know he likes Leonard Fournette. As a Jags fan, I respect Leonard Fournette. I think he's a good player. He played in 14 games last year, ran the ball almost 13 times a game. Again, splitting the backfield there with Ronald Jones, 4.5 yards per carry. That was tied for 20th. 8 rushing touchdowns puts him in the top 10. And he had about 90 yards a game. He had a great offensive line last year. And again, they did lose Alex Cappa, which definitely hurts that offense a little bit. But I'm expecting big things out of Leonard Fournette. I think everything's going to go up. Rushing yards, rushing attempts, receptions, targets, touchdowns. Now, this is somebody that could, he could have a monster year and finish in the top 5. I'm putting him in at number 8. I've seen a couple guys have him at like 12 and 13. So this is me reaching a little bit, which I did. And we'll talk about it in a little bit, which I'll do again. But yeah, I'm a big fan of Leonard Fournette. I think he's going to have a fantastic year this year. He's one of the only running backs that's not in a committee. He's not going to get 35 carries a game, but he's going to get the ball, and that means a lot. I love somebody that can, it's on the field as much as somebody like Leonard Fournette's going to be, because the chances of him catching or running the ball skyrocket. Christian McCaffrey, I have at number 7. I saw Matthew Berry has him at number 2. I do think the offensive line did get better, as you see there at the bottom. Ickey, Austin Corbett, and Bradley Bozeman. They did definitely help out that offensive line. They still don't have a quarterback. And he's had some injuries. I hope he's 100% healthy because he's a fantastic player to watch. Obviously, he didn't do a lot last year. It's kind of hard to break him down because he only played in 7 games last year. The big thing for me was the total yards, 112 total yards per game. And that just goes to show you that he does run the ball, as you see, 14 times a game, but he's somebody that, he can catch the ball in the backfield and run it for 50 yards for a touchdown. He's just really, really fun to watch. He's been like that since, he was at Stanford. Always always somebody you have to watch out for. So I do have him in the top 7. You can't take Christian McCaffrey out of the top 10 as much as I wanted to. You just can't do it. You have to have some respect for the guy. Yeah, he's been injury prone the last couple of years, but might not have the best team, but they don't have very many weapons on that team. So I do have him there at number 7. Do I think he'll finish in the top 5? No. Do I think he'll finish outside of the top 12 RB2 range? No. I think he'll be in there around 10. So I do have him there at 7. Again, I have to have faith in the guy, and I respect him. Number 6, Dalvin Cook. Another player, those two, him and Christian McCaffrey, they're both injury prone. But he did play in 13 games last year. He ran the ball about 19 times a game. Look at total yards, 106 yards per game. That's really good. 0 receiving touchdowns. I was shocked when I saw that. He had 6 total touchdowns and not a very good offensive line. They didn't do much to help him on the offensive line, which sucks. But again, he did have about 106 yards per game, which, I mean, if we'll not even go off of receptions. We'll just go off of straight rushing. Right there's 10 points a game that he had. And then, you get the touchdown. So he's somebody that does have a high ceiling and also a low floor. He's just kind of like Christian McCaffrey. I do think he can finish as an RB1 along with Christian. And these two, like I said, they go hand in hand. It was hard to go which one's better. I just like the offense here with Minnesota better. I do think there's a higher chance for touchdowns, which is why I ranked him above Christian McCaffrey, because neither one, if we go back, he had 2 touchdowns in 7 games. Again, not a lot. And he had 6 touchdowns in 13 games. Definitely not a lot. But I do like his upside a little bit better than I do Christian. So, yeah, I do have him at number 6. Number 5, Najee Harris. And this one I was really surprised on. I originally had him at like number 9 because I kept seeing people rank him at like probably around that 5 range, which is where I have him. But once I actually broke it down, and I was scared of that offensive line. And I looked at it. James Daniels, Okorafor, Mason Cole, and then they bring in Kenny Pickett, which I know he's not a fantastic player, but he's better than Ben Roethlisberger was last year. I mean, he was a corpse of himself. I mean, the guy, he couldn't do anything. He couldn't throw it 5 yards. So Kenny Pickett's, even if he does come in and has a less than mediocre year, will be better than what Big Ben did last year. I was very surprised by the carries, 307 carries. That's second in the NFL. It's 18 times a game. He did play in all 17 games, which a lot of these players didn't, but he had 1,200 rushing yards. That's amazing. 3.9 yards per carry, 23rd in the NFL, 7 rushing touchdowns. 1,200 rushing yards is 12th in the NFL. Huh. 7 rushing touchdowns. He averaged about 98 yards per game, and he had a horrible offensive line. They did lose Juju, but again, they brought in a bunch of offensive linemen that can help solidify that right side of the ball, and a better quarterback than what Big Ben was last year. So they do have a lot of weapons on this team. Najee's, he had a breakout year last year. It's hard to say he could have a breakout year this year, but he's somebody I could definitely see finishing in the top 5. If I am in a draft and if he's sitting there at 5, I'm taking him. I'm taking him over the wide receiver, whoever's there. He's just, to me, he's in that tier, which we'll get to here in a second. I almost moved him up to number 4, but I couldn't because of the number 4. His offense is way better than this. But I really do like Najee Harris, and I do expect big things out of him this year. Number 4, Austin Eckler. His offense is so good. You see there, they didn't really lose anybody, and they even brought a right guard in. So that definitely helps him out. 206 carries last year. That was about 12.9 a game. 911 rushing yards, 12 rushing touchdowns, 8 receiving touchdowns. That's about 1.25 a game. That's amazing. And it's only going to get better. His team, I mean, they're so much fun to watch. And it was hard going back and forth because I do think this top 5 is really good. Outside of that, it gets a little iffy. Once you get to like Christian McCaffrey, Dalvin Cook, me personally, I would be looking to see what wide receiver is there, just because it's so scary. And I didn't even think, Saquon Barkley, it's crazy. Don't even rank him in the top 10. What does that tell you? But anyways, sorry about that. Got off on a little tangent. About 13 carries a game, 911 rushing yards. Yeah, I had that wrong. 4.4 yards per carry, 12 rushing touchdowns, 5th in the NFL, 647 reception yards. He averaged about 97 yards a game, which is really good. And like I said, that offensive line last year was 10th, and they're only going to get better. They have a great quarterback. They have great wide receivers. Their defense is stacked now, and there's gonna be games where they're just handing it off, throwing screen passes, trying to burn clock. There's going to be games when they're playing the Chiefs or the Raiders or the Broncos where it's going to get up there and they're going to need touchdowns. This guy has a very high ceiling. I'm very excited to see what Austin Eckler can do. This whole top 5 is amazing. So I have him at number 4, and it's hard to rank him any higher than that. And the only person I would rank above him would be Najee Harris. Number 3, Joe Mixon. And this is where I know people are just going to be like, what are you talking about, dude? Well, look at this. He had 292 carries last year. It was about 18.25 per game. His rushing yards per game, 75. All right. 13 rushing touchdowns, 4th in the NFL. You go down about 95 yards per game. But look at that offensive line. Yes, that is why I'm ranking them that high. That offensive line with the firepower that they have, he now has a chance to actually run the ball and not get stopped, at the line of scrimmage or in the backfield, or only gaining 1 or 2 yards. Joe Mixon's somebody that I believe will finish in the top 5, and I have him ranked at number 3. Again, this top 5 is amazing. But yeah, I believe in Joe Mixon. I think this is going to be a massive year. He's 26 years old right now, 27. So he's still got a couple years left. And I think this is a year where he could just explode. He's somebody I'm trying to get in all my leagues. I have it broke down right there, exactly what he did last year. And then they add that offensive line. They already have the wide receivers. They already have Joe Burrow. So this will be a fun team to watch. Joe Mixon, I have it number 3. I couldn't put him any higher. And really, I didn't want to put him any lower. I have faith that this offensive line, with the weapons that they have, Joe Mixon's just going to explode. Jonathan Taylor, I have at number 2. He played in 17 games last year. The biggest loss, Carson Wentz. I should have put the biggest gain as Carson Wentz, but they brought in Matt Ryan. I feel like his numbers could have been even higher if they actually had a quarterback that could do something last year. And I've said it 1,000 times. I'm not a fan of Carson Wentz. I don't think he's that good. But yeah, he averaged about 1.25 touchdowns per game, averaged 135 yards per game. Just off of yards alone, he's averaging 13 yards a game, not including the receptions or the touchdowns or anything like that. Just the straight yards, 13 points a game. That's amazing. So glad I traded for him in my league. But yeah, I have him there at number 2. I mean, look at that. He averaged 5.5 yards per carry. He had 18 rushing touchdowns, 1,811 rushing yards, 332 carries. This guy was a ton of fun to watch last year. And like I said, I'm so glad I traded for him. It's somebody I've wanted for a while now. And as soon as the trade offer came through, I'm like, I don't care what it is. I'm clicking accept. I want this guy. So huge fan of Jonathan Taylor. I have him definitely in the top 3. And the only reason I put the guy at number 1 that I did is because of the respect I have for the man. it's hard to take him out of number one. And when they give the guy the ball, or even when they go in the game, you know that they're going to give the guy the ball, and it doesn't matter because he's going to truck everyone over. And that's Derrick Henry. And I know he was injured last year. He played in 8 games. That's fine. But look at this. In 8 games, he had the 10th most carries in the NFL. He had the 9th most rushing yards. He had the 6th most rushing touchdowns in 8 games. Yeah. You have to put Derrick Henry at number one. And yeah, I mean, I was so surprised when I started putting those numbers in, and I'm like, oh my God, in 8 games, this guy did this? That's amazing. 16th rated offensive line. Yeah, they lost A.J. Brown. They brought in Treylon Burks. But he finished as running back 14, only playing half the season. That's wow. So I have Derrick Henry at number 1, and I will. I had Jonathan Taylor at number 2. I have Joe Mixon at number 3. Austin Eckler at number 4. Najee Harris at number 5. Those 5, I am locked and loaded. Those are my top 5 running backs going into fantasy football. The rest of these, Dalvin Cook, Christian McCaffrey. 2 years ago, everybody would be like, what are you talking about? Why would you do that? The injuries scare me. That's the only thing that does it for me is the injuries scare me. Leonard Fournette, fantastic offense. He's now the true number 1 running back on that team. Quarterback's getting older. That's why I have him in the top 8. Aaron Jones loses his wide receivers. They don't have much. They have Sammy Watkins and Christian Watkins. Yeah, not much there. Gonna have to get the ball to somebody. And then Alvin Kamara, injured a little bit last year, loses his left tackle. They bring in a weaker left tackle, but they bring in Chris Olave. Really missing Sean Payton, really missing Drew Brees, but I do think he has the upside. So there's my top 10 way too early running backs. Hope you liked the video. Please like and subscribe like I said earlier. I'm going to keep doing this. And again, I'm just your average guy that just, I want to make videos. I want to talk football. I'm going to be doing, hopefully like every Saturday, just put it on live, have a few drinks, people pop in, we sit there and chat, and just talk football. Talk the NFL, talk Madden, whatever it is, and just have a good time. So again, my name is TG13. Thank you for viewing my video. Go into my channel. Please like and subscribe.